The first morning in Thandi's house felt like waking up in someone else's life. Lerato lay still on the bed, the sheets tucked too neatly around her like they were trying to keep her in place. The sun filtered in through the window, casting quiet light on the modest room. Simple curtains, a wooden wardrobe, a ticking wall clock. It was nothing like the luxury apartments she once floated through, or the chaos of her past life. Here, everything had order, a routine. It unsettled her. Down the hall, Thandi was already awake. Lerato could hear the soft hum of a kettle and the faint sound of gospel music playing from Thandi's phone. By the time she dragged herself into the kitchen, Thandi was packing lunch for Lerato's 3-year-old son, Luazi. "Morning," Thandi greeted without looking up. She handed a small water bottle to Luazi, who sat at the table swinging his legs. Lerato mumbled a reply, rubbing her eyes. "Why so early? Some of us have jobs, remember?" Thandi teased gently. "And some of us just enrolled in a UI/UX course that starts at 9? Lerato groaned. "Can't I just sleep in today? I had a headache last night." "Consistency is key," Thandi replied. "You said you wanted a fresh start. This is it." Lerato glanced at Luazi, who gave her a sleepy smile. She reached for the cup of tea Thandi had placed on the counter, nodding silently. A fresh start. That was the promise she made when she came here. But no one had told her it would feel like being dropped into a life she didn't recognize. The first week was hard. But it wasn't just the early mornings or the neatly timed routines. It was the silence, the stillness. No unexpected knocks on the door, no loud music from neighbors, no dramatic friends calling her to complain about men or money. Just a quiet space with expectations, structure, and a whole new kind of pressure. Thandi's home was a small 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Johannesburg. Nothing fancy, but it was clean, safe, and warm. Thandi worked remotely as a graphic designer, often sitting hunched over her laptop for hours. Lerato admired that dedication, but also found it strange. She had never known Thandi to be this focused, this grown. Meanwhile, Lerato tried to keep up with the online UI/UX course. At first, it was exciting. The instructor's voice was smooth, the slides sleek, and the idea of designing apps and websites felt creative and modern. She imagined herself sitting in cafes, working from a laptop, sipping iced coffee while people admired her discipline. But the reality was different. She struggled to understand the technical terms, user flows, wireframes, prototyping. Every time she clicked the next button, the content got more complex. The instructor spoke too fast. The assignments looked like they belonged in a science lab. Her notes turned into scribbles, and her patience wore thin. One afternoon, she slammed her laptop shut with a sigh and muttered, "This is rubbish. It's like they're speaking a foreign language." Thandi looked up from her own screen. "What's wrong?" "I can't do this, Thandi. It's not making sense. I thought it would be more about choosing colors and making things look nice." Thandi chuckled softly. "It's a bit more than that, I'm afraid, but that's how learning works. It's hard in the beginning. You have to keep pushing." "Easy for you to say," Lerato snapped. "You studied this. You're a computer person. I'm not. I don't even like staring at screens all day." Thandi leaned back in her chair and gave her a patient look. "I wasn't always a computer person, Lerato. When I started, I was just a girl trying to survive. Just like you." Lerato fell silent. Thandi continued gently. "Look, I know it's hard. I know this life feels strange. But you said you wanted a better future. For you and for Luazi. It won't come handed to you. You have to work for it." "I'm just not cut out for this type of work," Lerato muttered, folding her arms. "Books have never been my thing. I've tried to be someone else before. It always ends the same." "Maybe you don't have to be someone else," Thandi said. "Maybe you just have to become a better version of you." But the words didn't stick. By the end of the first week, Lerato had stopped logging into the classes. Every time she looked at the laptop, it made her feel like a failure. Thandi noticed, but didn't push. She gave her space. But one evening, after putting Lerato to sleep, Lerato approached her. "I think I'm done with the course," she said, sitting on the couch beside Thandi. Thandi raised an eyebrow. "Just like that?" "I've tried, I really have, but I don't think it's for me. I've never been good at school. Maybe I should just get a job, start earning something, instead of wasting your Wi-Fi and energy." Thandi sighed. "I was hoping you'd give it more time. I can't. I feel stupid. Every time I open that laptop, I feel like I'm drowning, and honestly, I just want to be useful, even if it means doing something simple." "Like what?" "I don't know. Sales? I used to do some of that, remember? At least I know how to talk to people." Thandi looked at her, thoughtful. "You're serious about this?" Lerato nodded. "I need to stop pretending I'm someone I'm not. I'm not built for books. I just want to earn money and take care of my son." There was a long pause. "All right," Thandi said finally. "If that's what you want, I'll support you. I have a friend who manages a boutique in town. I can talk to her and see if she's hiring." Lerato's eyes lit up. "Really?" "Don't get too excited. The work is demanding. You'll be on your feet all day. No skipping, no drama." "I can handle it," Lerato said quickly. "Anything is better than staring at a screen, pretending to understand words I've never heard before." Thandi gave a small smile. "All right then, let's try it your way." For the first time since moving in, Lerato felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't the glamorous life she used to chase, but it felt real, something she could actually do. She didn't know it yet, but this small decision, born out of frustration and pride, would lead her down a path full of excitement, danger, and consequences she couldn't yet imagine. The boutique was in the heart of Santon. Shiny glass walls, spotless white floors, and the faint scent of imported perfumes lingering in the air. Lerato had only been inside places like this when she was with wealthy men. Back then, she came in through the front, clicking in high heels, scanning racks of designer clothes without checking price tags. Now she entered through the staff entrance in flats, wearing a black uniform dress with a name tag that read, "Lerato, Sales Representative." But surprisingly, she didn't mind. At least, not at first. Thandi had spoken to her old friend, Naledi, the manager of the boutique, who agreed to give Lerato a trial. 1 week, Naledi said, her sharp eyes scanning Lerato up and down. "If you show up on time, dress right, and treat the clients well, the job is yours." And Lerato did just that. She arrived early, tied her hair back neatly, smiled at customers, and learned the layout of the store quickly. Designer shoes, bags, and clothes surrounded her like old friends. Except this time, she was not the one buying. She was folding, polishing, straightening. At first, it felt strange. She remembered the way the women used to glance at stuff like they were invisible. Now she was on the receiving end of those same glances. It stung a little. But she shook it off. This was honest work, and Thandi had gone out of her way to help her get here. The days flew by. Morning rushes of corporate women on their lunch break, followed by quieter afternoons with shoppers who had time and money to spare. Lerato quickly realized that most of the big girls who came in weren't buying on their own dime. A few flashes of black credit cards and hushed phone calls made that obvious. "They don't even work," she muttered one day, adjusting the hem of a silk dress on a mannequin. Asked Naledi, walking past with a clipboard. "Nothing," Lerato smiled. But the seed was planted. Every day she watched the rich walk in and out, laughing behind sunglasses, tapping long nails on phones, speaking with an air of confidence that reminded her of her old self. Her old life may have been chaotic, but it sparkled. Still, she tried. She went home on time. She helped Lerato with bedtime, even if it was just singing him to sleep. She washed dishes when Thandi cooked. She even gave Thandi part of her salary, unasked. You don't have to, Thandi said one night when Lerato pushed the envelope into her hand. No, Lerato said firmly. I live here too. I need to carry my weight. It was the most responsible Thandi had seen her in years. But the boutique was also changing her. She started putting extra effort into her appearance, wearing subtle makeup, fixing her weave just right, adding accessories to her uniform to make herself stand out. She noticed how certain customers paid her more attention when she smiled a certain way, or complimented their taste. One afternoon, a woman came in wearing a red jumpsuit that looked like it cost more than Lerato's entire salary. She walked with confidence, a crocodile leather handbag swinging from her arm, 2 phones in hand. Her nails were long and painted like stained glass. Lerato helped her choose heels. You have good eyes, the woman said, inspecting herself in the mirror. You ever think about doing more than this? Lerato tilted her head. Like what? The woman laughed lightly. Life's too short to stand behind counters all day. You're beautiful. You could be driving a Benz, wearing the same things you sell. She left with her purchases and a strong scent of money in the air. That night, Lerato couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, thinking. Was this really it? Folding clothes and greeting strangers for 8 hours a day? Was she really okay watching others live the life she once tasted? Still, she said nothing to Thandi. On the surface, things were good, but under her calm, cracks were forming. A hunger she thought she buried was stirring again. The next week, it happened. A young man walked into the boutique one afternoon. He was dressed in a casual tracksuit, but everything about him screamed wealth. A gold wristwatch, designer sneakers, and the air of someone who didn't need to ask for a price. He had a smooth, confident voice and smiled with dimples that made Lerato blink twice. He asked for sunglasses, something classy but subtle. She showed him a few options, offering her usual polite recommendations. You've got taste, he said, trying one on. And a pretty face, too. She smiled awkwardly. I'm just doing my job. Doing it well, though, he said, handing her his card. You free after work? Lerato hesitated. I don't usually. Just drinks, no pressure. His name was Tumo. By the end of her shift, she had already texted him. He picked her up that night in a luxury car and took her to a rooftop bar that looked like it belonged in Dubai. He talked about business deals and travel plans. He made her laugh. He didn't ask personal questions. He didn't judge her. It felt easy. After that, they met more often. Always secretly. Lerato would tell Thandi she had to stay late, or that Naledi needed her to cover an extra shift. She started calling Thandi to pick up Loazi from daycare more frequently, always with sweet apologies. I'll be home soon, she'd say. Thanks, sis. Thandi grew suspicious, but Lerato always kept things light. She told herself it was a real relationship this time, not one of those flings. Tumo was young, charming, and generous. He wasn't like the old men she used to depend on. He was different, wasn't he? One Friday, Tumo surprised her with a designer handbag. For you, he said, grinning. You deserve nice things. She was speechless. The smell of the leather, the gold zip, the label. I can't take this. We're not. You like it, right? I love it. Then it's yours. That night, she returned home with bags of groceries, toys for Loazi, and a small gift for Thandi. But when she handed Thandi a box with perfume, Thandi frowned. Where is all this coming from, Lerato? From Tumo, she said, smiling. He's different. He's kind. Thandi's lips tightened. Do you even know what he does for a living? He runs a logistics business. He's legit. Logistics, Thandi repeated. That word is doing a lot of heavy lifting these days. Lerato laughed it off, brushing her weave behind her ear. You worry too much. But in her heart, she knew Thandi wasn't wrong to be cautious. She just didn't want to listen. Not when the life she missed was finally within reach again. Thandi sat on the worn brown couch in the living room, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The television played a low, bunchy soapy in the background, but her eyes were glued to the clock on the wall. It was nearly 10 p.m. Again. Lerato hadn't come home. This was the third time that week. At first, Thandi had tried to be understanding. Lerato was young, trying to get her life together. After all, she had been going to work, bringing groceries home, even helping with a few bills. But lately, her behaviour was changing again. Familiar patterns that Thandi recognised all too well. The late nights, the vague stories, the secretive smiles. Thandi's heart tightened. It wasn't just about Lerato anymore. There was a little boy in the next room who needed his mother. The key turned in the door around 10:30, and Lerato stepped in, the scent of luxury perfume trailing behind her like a shadow. Her face glowed, her nails freshly done in a glossy nude pink. She wore a fitted dress Thandi had never seen before, and her feet clicked softly in designer heels. Thandi didn't say anything at first. She just watched as Lerato placed shopping bags on the table. "Hi, Thandi," Lerato said cheerfully, too cheerfully. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was crazy." Thandi raised an eyebrow. "Traffic? At 10:30 p.m? Was there a taxi strike at the club too?" Lerato's smile faltered for a second, but quickly returned. "No, I wasn't at the club. I was just out with Tumu. He took me for dinner." Thandi stood, arms folded across her chest. "Lerato, this is becoming a habit. You leave early for work, and then I don't see you until almost midnight. Some days you don't even come back until the next morning. What's going on?" Lerato sighed, visibly annoyed now. "Thandi, I'm an adult. I'm not a prisoner here. Can't I go out and enjoy myself once in a while?" "It's not about enjoying yourself," Thandi snapped. "It's about responsibility. You have a child. Luazi needs his mother, not a stranger who stops by once a day with McDonald's and shiny toys. I'm doing my best." "Are you?" Thandi's voice softened, but her eyes remained firm. "Because it looks like you're slipping back. I've seen this before, Lerato. Late nights, mysterious gifts, these same excuses. I just want to know, who is this man?" "I told you, his name is Tumo." "He's different, Thandi. He's not like those other men. He listens to me. He treats me like a queen." "Does he have a job? What does he do?" "He runs a logistics business," Lerato said, repeating it like a line from a script. Thandi scoffed. "Logistics, that vague word again. And what kind of logistics allows someone to buy you a 10,000 handbag after knowing you for a few weeks?" Lerato flinched. "You don't know him." "No, I don't. And neither do you." "I do," Lerato insisted, her voice rising. "Tumo is serious about me. He wants to build a life with me. He even mentioned travelling together. He said he might take me to Dubai." Thandi stared at her in disbelief. "Dubai? Lerato, do you even hear yourself? This sounds exactly like what you said before you ended up stranded with no rent, no job, and a child to feed. You said that man was serious too. And where did he go?" Lerato looked away, swallowing hard. "I'm not trying to control your life," Thandi said, more gently. "I just don't want you to walk back into a fire you only just escaped from." But Lerato's pride flared. "Tumo is not that kind of man. He's not some sugar daddy. He's young, smart, ambitious. We have real conversations. We laugh. He sees me for who I am." Thandi didn't respond immediately. She looked at her, really looked, beneath the glowing makeup and flashy shoes. She saw the same hunger, the same ache for something Lerato felt she deserved but hadn't earned. "I hope you're right," Thandi said at last. "For Luazi's sake, I hope you're right." The next few weeks blurred into one glittering blur for Lerato. Tumo took her to the finest restaurants in Johannesburg, places where waiters in suits pulled chairs out for her and poured her sparkling water from glass bottles. They lounged in 5-star hotel suites with silk sheets and rooftop jacuzzis. He bought her a pair of gold earrings, an iPhone, and even booked her a spa day just because. Every time she returned home, she carried bags, groceries, toys, gifts for Thandi. "Here," she said one Sunday evening, handing Thandi a beautiful fabric-wrapped box. "A thank you for always helping with Loazi." Thandi opened it to find an expensive perfume and a wristwatch. "I can't accept this," she said, gently closing the lid. "Why not?" "Because I don't know where it's coming from." Lerato rolled her eyes. "It's a gift. You think I'm doing something illegal?" "I don't know," Thandi said quietly. "But when something seems too good to be true, it usually is." Lerato felt the old frustration rising again. Why couldn't Thandi just be happy for her? She walked to Loazi's room and peeked in. He was fast asleep, hugging a stuffed lion Tumo had bought him. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "Mummy's doing this for you. You'll never suffer again." But somewhere deep in her chest, a small voice whispered back, "Is this really for him? Or for you?" That night, she uploaded a picture of her and Tumo at a hotel pool. Her legs crossed, a cocktail in hand, a caption that read, "From survival to soft life, blessed." The likes flooded in. Old friends commented fire emojis. A few people even DM'd her, asking what she did for a living. And for a moment, she forgot the doubt in Thandi's eyes. She felt powerful again, beautiful, adored, untouchable. But behind the glitz, something darker was stirring, something she couldn't see yet, something no luxury spa or gold necklace could shield her from. The high life had a price, and soon Lerato would learn just how steep it could be. Lerato couldn't stop smiling. The grin danced on her face like sunlight glinting on a freshly polished car. She scrolled through the pictures on her phone. Hotel balconies, champagne glasses, candle-lit dinners with Tumu. But the biggest surprise had come that evening, just after they returned from a weekend getaway in Santon. Tumo had pulled her close in the suite's velvet-lined couch, kissed her forehead and said, "Baby, how do you feel about seeing Dubai?" Her heart had skipped a beat. "Dubai?" He nodded casually, as if he'd just offered to take her to the mall. "Yeah, I've been thinking, you deserve more. You've had such a rough past. You deserve the world. Let me take you somewhere new, somewhere you can breathe." Lerato's chest tightened with joy. Dubai, the place she'd always dreamed of. The influencers she followed, Amanda from Durban, Mimi_Lux, and even that girl from Cape Town who did fashion reels, they'd all posted from Dubai. The views from the Burj Khalifa, the desert safaris, the designer shopping. Tumo wanted to take her there. Her, not as a side chick, not as a sugar baby, but as his woman. "Oh my God, Tumo," she whispered. "Are you serious?" "As serious as I've ever been," he said, handing her a mock-up of the flight itinerary. "I already booked your ticket. I just need to sort mine out this week." Lerato flung her arms around him, shrieking with laughter. "Ah, I can't believe this. I'm going to Dubai." Later that night, back at Thandi's flat, Letta couldn't contain her excitement. She burst through the front door, her voice echoing. "Thandi, Thandi, you won't believe it." Thandi was in the kitchen, drying dishes. She glanced over her shoulder. "What is it?" "I'm going to Dubai," Lerato squealed, spinning around with her arms in the air. Thandi raised an eyebrow. "With who?" Lerato placed her hands dramatically on her chest. "Who else?" "With Tumo, of course." The dish rag froze in Thandi's hand. She turned slowly. "Dubai? Lerato? That same Tumo you've only been seeing for what, 2 months?" "Almost 3, Lerato corrected with a grin. "And he's serious about me, Thandi. He's been spoiling me, treating me with respect. This isn't just another fling." Thandi sighed. "And when are you supposed to go?" Next week. It's just for 2 weeks. He's already booked the hotel and my flight. He'll get his later, but he wanted to surprise me first. Thandi's eyes narrowed. He booked your flight before his? Lerato shrugged. He said it's because of limited seats. He doesn't want me to miss the opportunity. Silence filled the kitchen for a moment. The clinking of a spoon being placed on the counter was the only sound. Thandi finally spoke, her voice low but firm. Lerato, I don't feel good about this. This man, something doesn't sit right with me. Hey, are you always like this? Lerato snapped. You always see the worst in people. I'm telling you, Tumo is different. He's caring, he listens to me, he hasn't asked me for anything. Jace. Yet Thandi muttered. Lerato frowned. Come on, Thandi, just be happy for me. This could be my break. I've been through so much. Don't I deserve a little happiness? It's not about happiness, it's about safety, Thandi said sharply. Do you know how many young women vanish overseas every year? Do you know how many get tricked into trafficking or worse? These vacations are how they lure you in. Tumodek isn't like that, Lerato insisted. You don't even know him. And neither do you, Thandi replied, her voice rising. You know what he shows you in fancy restaurants and hotel rooms. But who is he really? Lerato? Lerato's eyes began to water with frustration. You don't trust me. I don't trust what you're walking into, Thandi said quietly. The two women stood facing each other, the tension thick in the air, heavy with years of unspoken fears and fresh wounds. I'll only be gone for 2 weeks, Leavara said eventually, her voice smaller now. Please, Thandi, I need you to help me watch Luwazi, just while I'm gone. Thandi rubbed her temples. You're asking me to babysit your son while you fly off with a man I don't trust to a country you've never been to. I'll send updates. I'll video call. I just want you to help me this once. Please. I'm not abandoning him. I promise I'll be back. Thandi looked toward the hallway, where Luwazi's room was. The little boy was fast asleep, dreaming of cartoons and toy cars. She sighed heavily. I'll take care of him, but only because of Luwazi, not because I support this decision. Lerato rushed forward and hugged her tightly. Thank you, Thandi. Thank you so much. That night, Lerato couldn't sleep. She lay on her bed, scrolling through Instagram and Pinterest, saving outfit ideas for Dubai. Beach dresses, airport outfits, sunglasses, captions for her posts. Her followers would see that she wasn't just another baby mama from Soweto. She had made it. She had turned her life around. Where God opens a door, no man can shut it. She typed it under a selfie of herself in bed, her face glowing with anticipation. Thandi, meanwhile, stood outside on the small balcony, arms folded. The wind carried the distant sounds of minibus taxis honking in the street. Something about this trip felt wrong. Every instinct in her body screamed caution. She glanced at her phone again, scrolling back to the messages from Lerato over the last few weeks. Stories about Tumo, the late nights, the gifts, the vague details. She didn't want to crush Lerato's dreams, but she also didn't want to be the one left to pick up the pieces. Again. Still, for Luwazi's sake, she would keep her promise. But in her heart, Thandi knew. This was far from over. The hotel room was dimly lit, bathed in the soft golden glow of bedside lamps. Expensive cologne clung to the air, and jazz music played gently from a speaker tucked in a corner. Lerato lay stretched out on the bed, scrolling through Instagram, liking photos of women she followed. Mostly influencers showing off airport looks, and destination posts from places she now felt closer to than ever before. Tumo emerged from the bathroom, a towel draped over his shoulder and his phone in hand. His designer wristwatch sparkled as he moved, and his smile was calm. "Baby," he said, his voice smooth, "I got you something." Lerato looked up and grinned. "What? Again? You've been spoiling me non-stop." Tumo chuckled and walked to the wardrobe. From the top shelf, he pulled out a small, elegant black box tied with a silver ribbon. This one is different. It's special. Lerato sat up with curiosity, reaching for it. Can I open it now? But Tumo held her hand back gently. No. I want you to open it when we land in Dubai. It's for that moment, when you feel the air, see the lights, and realize you're finally living your dream. Then you open it. Lerato blinked at him, taken aback. Really? Yes, he said, setting the box in her travel bag. Just trust me, okay? It'll mean more if you open it there. She hesitated. Her curiosity itched, but something in the way he spoke, the way he handled the box, made her pause. What is it, though? She asked playfully. A watch? Earrings? Tumo smiled faintly. Something even better. Her brow furrowed slightly. You're being secretive. I just want it to be perfect. I know you, Lerato. You've had people disappoint you. I want to do the opposite. I want to give you something to remember. Her heart softened again. He always knew how to say the right thing, how to calm her nerves, how to spin everything into poetry. Okay, she said finally, her voice light again. They spent the rest of the evening cuddling, watching a movie neither of them truly paid attention to. Lerato drifted off to sleep feeling secure, her suitcase neatly packed, passport ready, and that mysterious box zipped inside. The next morning came fast. The sunlight poured through the curtains, and the sound of planes overhead gave her stomach butterflies. She was finally doing it, leaving the country for the first time. Dressed in her airport outfit, white jeans, a branded sweatshirt and sneakers, Lerato posed in front of the mirror while Tumo snapped pictures. You look like money, he said. I feel like money, she grinned. They checked out of the hotel and headed to the airport in a black SUV. Lerato recorded short clips on her phone for Instagram stories, the car pulling up to Or Tambo International, her passport and boarding pass, even a selfie of her and Tumo walking hand in hand toward the terminal. As they approached the check-in counter, Tumo stopped suddenly, patting his wrist. Damn, he muttered. What? Lerato asked, her mood still bubbly. My wristwatch. I left it at the hotel, he said, frowning. It's my Omega. I can't leave it behind. It was a gift from my uncle. Let's go back and get it, Lerato offered. No, he said quickly. Your flight boards in under an hour. If we go back now, you'll miss it. I don't want to go alone, she said, a note of nervousness creeping into her voice. Tumo reached into his wallet and pulled out a wad of crisp dollar bills. He peeled off a few notes and handed them to her. $2,000 in $100 bills. Take this, he said softly. It's for your hotel pickup, dinner, shopping, whatever you want. I'll rebook my flight and join you in less than a day. I promise. Lerato looked at the money in her hands, her mind tugging in different directions. You sure? She asked. We can wait. I can board later. No, baby. I want you to go. You deserve to arrive like a queen. I'll be right behind you. It's just a watch, but it means something to me. She swallowed hard, glancing at the boarding gate in the distance. Airport staff were starting to call passengers to line up. Okay, she said finally, but don't take long. Tumo kissed her cheek. Never. I'll be there before you even notice I'm gone. He gave her one last smile and turned, heading back toward the exit as she rolled her suitcase forward. Lerato stood in line, still thinking about the watch, the mysterious gift box in her bag, and the surreal fact that she was about to board a flight to Dubai. She smiled to herself, then took a quick video of her boarding pass and plane behind her. The caption read, "Dreams do come true. Dubai bound." Soft life only. But deep in her chest, a flutter of unease stirred, like a distant rumble of thunder under a clear sky. As she walked toward the final security checkpoint, the bag on her shoulder suddenly felt heavier. Not just physically. Emotionally. The gift box seemed to weigh down the zipper. She remembered Tumo's face, how quickly he dismissed her concern. How calm he had been. Too calm. She looked at the dollar bills again. $2,000. Just like that? She tried to silence the voice of doubt creeping in. She reminded herself that some men were generous, that maybe, just maybe, she was finally lucky. The checkpoint staff smiled as she approached. She handed them her passport and placed her bag on the conveyor belt. It slid through the X-ray machine as she passed through the metal detector. Everything slowed down. A pause. Then one officer stepped aside and called another. Then another. They asked her to open her bag. Her heart jumped. Just a routine check, one of them said. She opened her bag slowly, her hands trembling slightly. And there it was. A gift box. Still wrapped. Still tied. One officer picked it up gently. "Do you mind if we open this, ma'am?" Lerato hesitated. It was a gift. For when I get there. The officer's expression didn't change. "We need to see what's inside." Lerato nodded slowly. The ribbon was untied. The lid lifted. Inside, neatly packed, were several rectangular packages, tightly sealed. The officer's face darkened. They called for backup. Another officer approached. "Ma'am, what is this?" I don't know," Lerato stammered. "It's not mine. My boyfriend gave it to me. He said to open it in Dubai. I didn't know what was inside." "Just contact?" the officer asked sharply. "Yes. His name is Timo something. I can call him now, please." They handed her her phone. She scrolled quickly to his contact and dialed. It rang once. Then silence. Then the call cut off. She dialed again. This time, it didn't ring at all. The number had been switched off. Her heart plummeted. The officer looked her dead in the eye. "Ma'am, we believe this is cocaine. You are under arrest for international drug trafficking." Lerato's knees buckled as the cuffs clicked around her wrists. The airport buzzed on, travellers moving past her, unaware that her entire life had just imploded in a single moment. The officers huddled around the open box, gloves on, eyes sharp, faces void of emotion. They spoke in hushed tones, radioing for additional support. Lerato stood frozen, her heart thudding in her chest like it was trying to escape. The box that had once been a symbol of affection now sat on the metal table like a loaded weapon. One of the senior customs officers turned to her, holding up one of the small, tightly packed bricks. "Ma'am," he said, his voice slow and deliberate, "do you know what this is?" Lerato stared at the brick. It didn't look familiar, wrapped in plastic, powder-white contents visible through a small puncture. Her lips parted, but no sound came. I don't know what that is," she whispered finally, shaking her head. "It's not mine. My boyfriend gave me the box. I didn't even open it." The officer raised an eyebrow. "And this boyfriend, where is he now?" He said he forgot his wristwatch. He told me to go ahead and that he would meet me in Dubai tomorrow," Lerato explained quickly. "Please, I swear, I didn't know anything was in that box. He said it was a surprise, a gift." Another officer chimed in sternly. "What's his full name?" Lerato blinked. "Tumo. I don't know his surname. I just know him as Tumo." The weight of that realization hit her like a hammer. How could she not know his surname? They'd been seeing each other for weeks. He took her out, bought her things, promised her a future. "Ma'am," the officer said again, his tone harder now, "you are carrying what appears to be cocaine. We are placing you under arrest pending further investigation." No, Lerato gasped, stepping back. "Please, listen to me. I swear, I had no idea. You have to believe me." Two female officers moved in, gently but firmly grabbing her arms. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say may be used against you in court." Lerato wasn't listening. Her mind was spinning, her body cold, her legs weak. She tried to reach into her pocket for her phone, but one of the officers stopped her. "You'll get a chance to call someone soon," she said. "No, please, just let me call him. Let me call Tumo." They allowed her to sit down in a separate room. A cold, windowless area with grey walls and a metal chair bolted to the ground. Her hands were trembling as she dialed Tumo's number. Disconnected. She blinked, redialed. Again it rang once, then voicemail. She tried a third time. This time, it didn't even ring. Just a cold, robotic voice. "This number is no longer in service." It was like the air had been sucked out of her lungs. He was gone. Gone. And now she was alone. Trapped in a nightmare she didn't even know she had walked into. An officer entered the room. "You're allowed one phone call." Lerato looked up at him, dazed. "I've already called him. He's gone." "Then call someone else. A friend. Family." She sat still for a moment, staring at her phone. Who could she call? Her mother? No, they hadn't spoken in months. Her mother would likely scold her first before even trying to understand. Had old friends? Most had distanced themselves the moment she hit rock bottom. Those still around only wanted drama, not solutions. Then her eyes settled on one name in her contacts. Thandi. Her thumb hovered over the call button. Her pride wrestled with her desperation, but she was cuffed. Scared, alone, humiliated. There was no one else. She pressed call. It rang twice before Thandi's calm voice answered. "Lerato?" Loretta opened her mouth, but the words didn't come immediately. She choked back tears. "Thandi? I need help." A beat. Then Thandi's voice shifted. Concerned, alert. "What's going on?" "I'm at the airport," Lerato croaked. "I've been arrested." "What?" Thandi's voice spiked. "Arrested? What happened?" Lerato's voice cracked as the tears finally came. "The box Tumo gave me, it had drugs in it, cocaine. I didn't know, Thandi, I swear I didn't know. He told me not to open it until Dubai. I trusted him, and now he's disappeared, his number's off. They think I'm a drug mule." There was a pause on the other end. Lerato could almost hear Thandi's heart drop. "Oh my God," Thandi whispered. "Are you serious?" "I didn't do anything, Thandi," Lerato sobbed. "I swear, please, I didn't know. I just wanted a better life. He said we'd travel. He said he loved me." Her voice trailed off into helpless crying. Thandi took a deep breath. "Okay, listen to me. I believe you, but we need to act quickly. I'm coming. I'll figure something out. Don't say anything else to anyone unless a lawyer is present, okay?" Lerato nodded, even though Thandi couldn't see her. Okay. "And Lerato?" Thandi added softly. "We'll get through this, one step at a time." Lerato dropped the phone into her lap, her wrists still bound in cuffs. For the first time since the nightmare began, a small crack of light pierced through the darkness. She had called the right person, but the damage was done. The humiliation of being arrested in public, the betrayal by someone she trusted, and the stark realization that she had become a pawn in a much bigger game, all of it crashed around her like a collapsing building. A uniformed woman came in and gestured for her to stand. "We're moving you now. Your lawyer can meet you later." Lerato stood shakily. She was no longer the girl flying to Dubai with a dream and designer perfume. Now she was a suspect, a statistic, a lesson waiting to be learned. As the heavy doors closed behind her, the only thing that echoed in her mind was Thandi's voice, promising her that she wasn't completely alone. Thandi stood outside the police station, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, a frown digging deep into her forehead. She'd barely slept the night before. After that phone call from Lerato, her mind had spiraled between shock, fury, and bitter disappointment. Now, the morning sun glared down on her like it too was judging the situation. Inside the precinct, Lerato sat in a holding cell. Dishevelled, quiet, her makeup smeared, her hair no longer perfect, her eyes swollen. Her pride, once towering and loud, now seemed paper-thin. When she saw Thandi walk into the visitor room, her face lit up briefly with hope, but it quickly faded at the sight of Thandi's expression. Thandi didn't sit. She stood across the thick glass barrier, staring at Lerato with tight lips. "I don't know what to say," Lerato whispered into the receiver, her voice hoarse. "You don't have to say anything," Thandi replied flatly, not lifting the receiver. Lerato slowly picked hers up. "I didn't know, Thandi. I swear I didn't know what was in the box." "Don't." Thandi's voice sliced through the air. "Just don't." There was silence. Thandi's chest rose and fell steadily as she tried to control the anger bubbling inside her. "You lied to me," she finally said. "You lied when you said this guy was serious. You said you were being careful. You made me believe you were trying." "I was trying," Lerato said, her voice trembling. I wanted to feel alive again. I thought this was my chance." "Your chance to what? Be trafficked? Become someone's mule? Get locked up while your child waits for you at daycare?" Thandi's voice cracked. "You were thinking about yourself, not him." Lerato's head dropped. "I didn't think it would end like this." "That's the problem, Lerato," Thandi snapped. "You don't think. You didn't think when you quit your classes. You didn't think when you started living that fake luxury life again. And now, look where it's gotten you." "I thought you'd help me," Lerato said quietly, pain leaking into her voice. "I didn't know who else to call." "I came," Thandi replied coldly. "That's the help you're getting." Lerato looked up. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not bailing you out, I'm not hiring a lawyer, I'm not going to clean this up for you." Her words landed with sharp finality. "You're going to sit in there and face this. Maybe then you'll finally wake up." A tear rolled down Lerato's cheek. "What about my son?" Thandi's eyes softened, but only slightly. "I picked him up. He's fine. For now, but he can't stay in limbo while his mother runs after illusions." "I'm sorry, Thandi." "I know you are," she said, almost whispering. "But that won't protect your child from this mess." Lerato reached out and touched the glass. "Please, don't give up on me." Thandi didn't move. She stared at her friend. This woman who had once been full of light and dreams but kept falling into the same traps. Thandi wanted to believe in Lerato. She always had. But belief without boundaries had cost too much already. "I have to go," Thandi said, turning toward the door. As she walked out of the police station, Lerato's tearful voice echoed behind her. "Please, please, don't leave me here." Thandi didn't turn back. The daycare was quiet when she arrived. A few parents were collecting their children, exchanging cheerful hellos. Thandi walked in with tired eyes and a heavy heart. Lerato's son, Sheppo, was in the corner, colouring with a crayon, oblivious to the storm swirling outside the walls. "Thandi!" he beamed, running to her. "Did Mummy come back from the airport?" Thandi forced a smile and knelt to hug him. "Not yet, baby. She had to stay longer, but she asked me to pick you up today." He leaned into her. "Will she bring me something from Dubai?" The words hit her like a slap. Thandi swallowed hard. "I don't know, Shippo. We'll just have to wait and see." She signed him out, packed his little backpack and walked him to the car. He chattered about his day, showing her a drawing of a giraffe and a sun. Thandi nodded and smiled where appropriate, but her thoughts were far from the crayon masterpiece. Later that evening, after dinner and cartoons, Sheppo finally drifted to sleep on the couch. Thandi sat nearby, staring blankly at the TV, as news of international drug smuggling cases flickered across the screen. The irony wasn't lost on her. She sighed and glanced at the sleeping boy, his soft breathing, his tiny hands curled into fists, his peaceful face. He didn't deserve this. He didn't choose any of it, and that's what haunted her most. Lerato might have made reckless choices, but Shepo was the one who would suffer the consequences. What if his mother was convicted? What if she went to prison for years? Who would raise him? Who would explain this mess when he was old enough to understand? Thandi rubbed her temples, exhausted. She had told Lerato she wouldn't help this time. She meant it. But Tsepo had changed everything. He was innocent. And if she truly wanted better for Lerato, then maybe the only way to help now was to help her son. By midnight, Thandi sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, typing an email to a lawyer she knew from church. She wasn't planning to cover Lerato's bail or lie for her in court. But she needed someone to represent her properly, someone who would make sure the truth came out, whatever it was. She ended the message with, "Please let me know what you can do. I'm looking out for the child involved." After clicking send, she sat back and sighed. She wasn't doing this for Lerato anymore. She was doing it for Tsepo. Because some children were born into chaos, and if no one stepped up for them, the cycle would repeat again and again. And Thandi had seen enough of that already. The days after Lerato's arrest were filled with silence and tension. She sat alone in the cold police cell, unsure of her fate. Her phone calls went unanswered. Her tears were ignored. Even the guards had started to treat her as just another statistic, a foolish girl who got caught in something bigger than herself. But what she didn't know was that on the outside, someone had quietly begun to fight for her. Thandi had made a decision. Though she had been furious, heartbroken even, she couldn't shake the image of Lerato's terrified face in that police station. She couldn't stop hearing her pleading voice. And as much as she had promised herself not to get involved, she couldn't watch Lerato's life fall apart without trying to uncover the full truth. So she went back to the boutique where Lerato worked. The manager, already shocked by the news, was willing to talk. Thandi asked if there were any photos or security footage of the man who used to visit Lerato. The man she always left work early to meet. The manager, hesitant at first, eventually agreed to check. 3 hours later, Thandi had a grainy image of Tumo. He was tall, well-dressed, dark-skinned and always smiling. On the surface, he looked like any wealthy, charming young man, but Thandi knew better now. She took the footage straight to a friend of hers, Detective Mwaji, a man she had grown up with in the township who now worked in the narcotics unit. "I don't know what this guy's real story is," Thandi said as she showed Mwaji the footage. "But Lerato swears she didn't know what was in the box, and I believe her." Mwaji studied the footage, pausing it when Tumo entered the frame. "You say he told her to carry a sealed package to Dubai, then backed out last minute?" he asked. "Yes. Gave her money for the trip, told her he'd meet her there. She was stopped before boarding. The box had cocaine." Mwaji nodded slowly. Classic mule setup. She's lucky she was caught here, not over there. Dubai doesn't play games with drug trafficking. Thandi swallowed hard. "Can you help?" He sighed. "It's not easy, but we'll start digging." The next few days were a blur of movement. Thandi coordinated with Mwaji and his team discreetly. She followed leads, revisited old locations Tumo and Lerato had frequented, and took note of every luxury hotel, bar or restaurant Lerato had mentioned in passing. The investigation began to piece together a pattern. They discovered that Tumo had used multiple names: Tumo Masego, Tumo Dlamini, T, and in one hotel record, T. Morake. His real name was Tumisang Morake, and he had a criminal record dating back several years, mostly involving fraud and drug offences. He had been under surveillance before but had gone underground. Lerato was just his latest pawn. What chilled Thandi to the bone was the realization that he had done this before. Used young women as carriers, and not all of them had been as fortunate as Lerato. Thandi pushed harder. With help from Muaji, they obtained hotel surveillance footage where Tumo had checked in just days before Lerato's flight. Thandi recognized the gift box in his hands. Another officer found CCTV from a petrol station where he and Lerato had stopped to buy snacks. The box visible again, innocently wrapped in shiny paper. This evidence, along with Lerato's testimony and Tumo's criminal history, was enough to issue a warrant. It didn't take long after that. Tumo had been hiding out in a rented apartment under a different name, still dressed in designer clothes, still smooth-talking his way into wealthy circles. But he hadn't counted on Thandi. He was arrested at a rooftop lounge, a drink in hand, and no clue that his past had caught up with him. When confronted with the evidence, at first he denied everything, but hours into interrogation, with footage, testimonies, and phone records placed before him, he broke. He confessed to using Lerato, said she was eager and gullible, said she didn't ask questions and liked the money. He even mocked her for believing he loved her. The confession was recorded and submitted to the court. It was enough to exonerate Lerato. 2 weeks after her arrest, Lerato was released. She walked out of the holding facility looking thinner, pale, and drained. She clutched a small plastic bag containing her phone, some cash, and the same outfit she had worn the day she was taken. She looked up and saw Thandi waiting outside. For a moment, they just stared at each other. "I didn't expect you to be here," Lerato said, her voice dry and cautious. "I know," Thandi replied. "Let's go home." They drove in silence. Lerato kept glancing at Thandi, trying to understand what had happened. She had no idea that Thandi had done any of this. She hadn't even known the truth behind Tumo's disappearance. It wasn't until they reached Thandi's house and Lerato saw Tsepo asleep on the couch that she broke down. Thandi handed her a glass of water and said softly, "He kept asking when you were coming home." Lerato wept, deep, gut-wrenching sobs. "I was so stupid. I was so blind, Thandi. He used me like I was nothing." Thandi sat beside her, but didn't touch her. "You could have been in prison for years. You could have died. Do you understand that?" "I do," Lerato whispered. "I really do." "I didn't want to get involved," Thandi admitted. "But then I remembered that the people who love us don't always have the luxury of walking away. They fight for us, even when we don't deserve it." Lerato looked at her with wide, grateful eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted you to feel it, to sit in that cell and think. Not because I hate you, but because I needed you to wake up." Lerato nodded. "You saved me." Thandi didn't reply right away. She just stared at the wall, her jaw tight. "No, you're the one who's going to save yourself now." And in that quiet, worn-out living room, lit by a single lamp and filled with the hum of a sleeping child, Lerato made herself a promise. She was going to rise not just for herself, but for Tsepo, and for the woman who had fought in silence when no one else would. The days that followed Lerato's release were quiet but heavy with meaning. She didn't return to the flashy heels or tight dresses. Her phone, once filled with luxury ads and flirtatious messages, now stayed silent for long hours. Every time it rang, her heart skipped. Not in excitement, but in caution. Thandi noticed the difference right away. Lerato had always been loud. Loud in fashion, loud in laughter, loud in emotion. But now, she was quieter, more reflective. She didn't have to say much. Her eyes told stories of pain, awakening, and a desire for change. The confident swagger was gone, replaced by a gentler humility. One morning, Lerato sat by the kitchen table while Sheepo played with blocks on the floor. "I used to think life was unfair if it wasn't glamorous," she said quietly, sipping tea Thandi had made. Like, if I wasn't living like the girls on Instagram, something was wrong with me. Thandi leaned against the counter. And now I realise. I was chasing things that disappear fast. Clothes, vacations, men with money. They don't last. None of them stayed when it mattered. She looked down at her son. But Sheppo did, and you did. Thandi didn't say anything right away. She knew Lerato needed space, not lectures. What mattered now wasn't guilt or punishment, but a way forward. Lerato reached across the table and grabbed Thandi's hand. Thank you, for fighting for me even when I didn't deserve it, for loving my son like your own. Thandi squeezed her hand gently. He is my own, and you, whether you like it or not, are my sister. Lerato smiled for the first time in a long while. Not the practiced, selfie-ready smile, but a real, deep one that reached her eyes. The journey to rebuild was slow. Lerato insisted on taking full responsibility for herself and her child. She didn't want handouts, no more leaning on Thandi or anyone else for shortcuts. The first thing she did was return to the boutique. Not for work, but to apologise. She stood outside for an hour before the manager finally agreed to see her. I'm sorry, she said simply. I brought shame to your business. I was reckless. But I want you to know I've changed, and I'm working on being better. The manager, impressed by her humility, didn't offer her job back, but thanked her for the courage to apologise. It was enough for Lerato. Back home, she told Thandi she wanted to go back to online studies. This time, not in UI/UX, but in social work. I want to help girls like me, she said. Girls who've been used, discarded, or tempted by fast money. Maybe I can teach them there's another way. Thandi raised an eyebrow, impressed. You sure about that? It's hard work, and not always glamorous. I don't want glamour anymore. I want peace. They both laughed. With Thandi's help, Lerato registered for a government-proselytised adult education program. She started part-time classes in counselling and social development. Every evening, after feeding Sheppo and putting him to bed, she studied by candlelight when the power went out, or watched recorded lectures on Thandi's old tablet. Slowly, she began to believe in herself again. There were setbacks. Nights when Sheppo was sick, days when Lerato felt exhausted and discouraged. But unlike before, she didn't quit. She no longer needed validation from strangers. She had found a purpose stronger than any compliment. One Sunday afternoon, after church, Thandi and Lerato sat under the jacaranda tree outside their home. You know what I realised? Lerato said, biting into a mango. I spent years wanting to be seen. By men, by society. I wanted the world to look at me and say I'd made it. And now I just want to be the kind of woman Sheppo will be proud of. Thandi smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. That's real success, sis. That's what lasts. That same week, Lerato volunteered at a local girls' shelter. It was her first official step toward giving back. At first, the girls didn't trust her. They had seen too many people come and go with fake promises. But Lerato didn't try to impress them. She just listened. She told her story, raw, honest, and without shame. Slowly, the girls began to open up. I know what it's like to want more, she told them. But sometimes, more is a lie in shiny packaging. Don't trade your worth for a man's wallet. Word spread. Soon, she was invited to speak at local schools and churches. Not as an expert, but as a survivor. As someone who had tasted both sides and chosen the harder, better path. One night, Thandi returned from work and found Lerato and Sheppo dancing in the living room, laughing and spinning to a gospel song. Lerato's face glowed, not from makeup or filters, but from pure joy. Thandi leaned on the doorway and watched, heart full. She had seen Lerato fall, but now she was watching her rise, not on borrowed wealth or fake love, but on integrity, perseverance, and a mother's love for her child. Months passed. Lerato completed her first online certificate in counselling. She applied for an internship with a local NGO that helped at-risk girls. The director, moved by her story, gave her a chance. She worked hard, tirelessly, humbly, passionately, and little by little she became a source of inspiration to others. Thandi, too, changed. She no longer walked around with the burden of rescuing everyone. Lerato's transformation taught her that people could only change when they chose to. All she had to do was believe, support, and love. With boundaries. One day, as the two women sat watching Sheppo draw in the yard, Lerato turned to Thandi. "Do you think I'll ever be fully free from my past?" Thandi didn't hesitate. "You already are, because you're not letting it control your future." Lerato smiled, tears in her eyes. "I never thought I could live like this, with peace, with purpose." "You earned it," Thandi said, wrapping an arm around her. "Every bit of it." And as the sun dipped behind the trees, casting golden light over their home, Lerato finally felt it. Freedom. Not the kind she once thought money or men could give her, but the kind that came from knowing who she was, choosing a better path and walking it, step by step, with courage, humility, and love. For her son. For herself. And for every girl who would one day hear her story and choose to rise too.